The Garden of Ego. Once upon a time, in the ancient and mystical land of Japan, there lived a young man called Kenji who lived in a small village surrounded by dense forests and majestic mountains. Kenji, like many young people his age, was deeply immersed in his own ego, always seeking to prove his worth and superiority over others. One day, while strolling through the forest, Kenji came across an old gardener working in a hidden garden, a place of unparalleled beauty, full of exotic flowers and centuries-old trees. The gardener, who was called Takumi, was known for his wisdom and serenity and aroused Kenji's curiosity. Intrigued, Kenji asked Takumi what the secret of that splendid garden was. With an enigmatic smile, Takumi replied that the real secret lay in understanding and mastering one's own ego. He then proposed a challenge to Kenji. The young man should tend the garden for a season, learning the art of gardening and, consequently, lessons about life and the ego. Kenji accepted the challenge, thinking it would be an easy task. However, he soon realized that gardening was an art that required patience, dedication, and humility. Each plant had its own unique needs, and caring for them required a deep understanding and respect for nature. Gradually, Kenji began to realize that his desire to prove himself was like a weed in his heart, suffocating his true nature. Under Takumi's guidance, he learned the importance of listening more and talking less, of appreciating simplicity and finding joy in the act of serving and caring, not only for plants, but also for the people around him. When the season came to an end, the garden was more beautiful than ever, and Kenji had transformed. He was no longer the arrogant young man who had arrived there. He was now someone who had found peace and wisdom through humility and hard work. Takumi, satisfied, told Kenji that the real garden he had cultivated was not the one around him, but the one inside him. Kenji now understood that the ego, like any part of a garden, needs to be cared for and pruned so that it doesn't dominate the landscape of the soul. The young man thanked the old gardener and went on his way, taking with him the lessons he had learned. He knew that the Japanese wisdom of the garden was now in his heart, a treasure that would guide him for the rest of his life. In Japanese culture, wisdom about the ego is precious, teaching us to live in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. This wisdom, full of depth and serenity, can be applied in transformative ways in our daily routine. The art of simplicity. In Japan, the concept of talks about the beauty and importance of empty space, of simplicity. In our lives, this means uncomplicating, getting rid of excess, both material and mental. Clearing our home and mind of unnecessary objects and thoughts helps to reduce the noise of the ego, which often feeds on chaos and complexity. The value of gamen. Gamen is the art of persevering with dignity without complaint. In daily practice, it means accepting adversity calmly and not allowing the ego to overwhelm us with frustration and impatience. Whether facing slow traffic, dealing with hard work, or going through difficult times, gamen teaches us to maintain composure and serenity. The power of silence. In modern society, we are constantly surrounded by noise and stimuli. Japanese wisdom encourages us to seek moments of silence. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is an opportunity for the ego to quieten down and for inner reflection. Practicing silence can be as simple as turning off the TV during dinner or spending a few minutes in meditation in the morning. The humility of omotenashi. Omotenashi refers to Japanese hospitality, which is based on anticipating the needs of others without expecting anything in return. Applying this concept in everyday life means offering help, being kind and considerate, thus reducing the focus on ourselves and our ego. It can be as simple as holding the door for someone or listening attentively when someone speaks. Continuous learning and self-development. Japanese culture places great value on learning and personal growth. In daily practice, this means recognizing that we never know everything and that there is always room to learn and improve. This approach keeps the ego in check as it recognizes that we are eternal students in the school of life. Appreciating nature. In Japan, nature is a fundamental part of life and well-being. Spending time in nature, whether in a local park, garden, or even tending plants at home, helps us reconnect with the world around us and diminish the excessive importance we often give to our ego. Translated with deepl.com, free version. By incorporating these principles of Japanese wisdom into our daily lives, we can find a more balanced and peaceful path where the ego doesn't dominate but coexists harmoniously with our true essence. In the lands of the rising sun, under skies of silk and steel, walked the samurai with honor in every step. They carried in their souls a fire that could not be seen, the flame of discipline, courage, and wisdom. Ego, a silent companion, lurked in every shadow, challenging the warriors in the quiet in the twilight. But the samurai knew, as few would understand, that true power lay in the control of the ego. In each blow of the katana, a reflection of the inner self. In the gleaming steel, a mirror of their worth. It wasn't just the fight against enemies that defined them, but the battle within, where ego and soul challenged each other. Honor was their guide, Bushido their law. In a world where ego could easily go astray, but the strength of a samurai was actually to be found. In quiet humility where ego was calmed, they walked through the world with deep, serene gazes, knowing themselves, facing their inner demons. The ego, although present, was a master and an apprentice. In a game of wisdom, strength, and actress, it was in the stillness of the dojo or in the storm of war that the samurai faced what was inside him. The struggle was incessant and eternal, coming and going. In the dance of ego and soul, without ever giving up. Every dawn, under the light of the setting sun, the samurai trained with his patient spirit. He knew that the greatest challenge was not in the sharp blade, but in the control of the ego, in the journey of the enlightened soul. So, in ancient stories, where legends are woven, the samurai teach us, in the lines of their lives, that true power lies not in what is seen, but in the silent strength of the ego that knows how to yield. The essence of the ego in samurai life, emphasizing the importance of self-control, discipline, and wisdom, values deeply rooted in samurai culture and philosophy. Mastering the ego is a journey of self-discovery and self-control, essential for achieving a balanced and fulfilling life. This conclusion explores the strategies and practices that can help us manage and understand our ego, contributing to our personal growth and harmonious interpersonal relationships. Self-awareness. The first step to mastering the ego is to develop deep self-awareness. This involves reflecting on our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors and recognizing how the ego influences our reactions and decisions. Meditation and reflective writing are powerful tools for increasing self-awareness. Acceptance and humility. Accepting that we are imperfect and admitting our mistakes is fundamental to keeping the ego in check. Humility doesn't mean diminishing ourselves, but rather having a realistic perception of our abilities and limitations. This makes room for continuous growth and learning. Empathy and compassion. Practicing empathy and compassion helps us to go beyond our own ego and understand the perspectives and feelings of others. This not only improves our interpersonal relationships, but also gives us a more balanced and less self-centered view of the world. Discipline and patience. Mastering the ego requires discipline and patience. This can mean resisting immediate impulses, controlling anger or frustration, and learning to respond in a calm and measured way in challenging situations. Gratitude and appreciation. Cultivating gratitude and appreciating what we have, rather than always wanting more, is a powerful antidote to the dissatisfaction and arrogance that the ego often promotes. Daily practices of gratitude can transform our perspective and attitude towards life. Detachment from results. Learning to detach from results and focus on the process is one way to keep the ego in check. This involves valuing effort and progress rather than fixating only on success or recognition. Conscious communication. Honing the art of conscious and active communication, listening more and talking less can help balance the ego. This includes avoiding the need to always be right and being open to different points of view. Maintaining balanced relationships. Cultivating healthy and balanced relationships where mutual respect and equality prevail is essential to keeping the ego in check. Toxic or competitive relationships can inflate the ego in harmful ways. Spiritual and philosophical practices. Often, engaging in spiritual practices or exploring philosophies of life that emphasize detachment from the ego can offer new perspectives and understandings about the role of the ego in our lives. Accepting change and impermanence. Recognizing and accepting change and the impermanence of everything in life can help reduce ego rigidity. This teaches adaptability and resilience, which are important for dealing with life's ups and downs. Mastering the ego is not a destination, but an ongoing journey. It involves the constant development of self-awareness, humility, empathy, discipline, and an attitude of gratitude and detachment. By embracing these practices, we can achieve a state of balance and serenity where our ego does not control us, but is an integrated and healthy part of our total personality. This conclusion offers an overview of how to approach and manage the ego in a healthy and balanced way, emphasizing that it is an ongoing and multifaceted process.